All right, so let's get right into it. We've already covered how you get your work validated, right? But what happens next? Well, today we're going to talk about something really powerful, how you can take those hours you've earned and turn them into a potential asset. I mean, literally making your work work for you. So, you've done the hard part. You've put in the hours, they're all validated, and they're sitting there safe and sound in your time bank. Think of this as proof of your contribution. It's all locked in. And that's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. Okay, but let's be honest. Hours just sitting there, they're just hours, right? So the big question, the one you're probably asking is, how do you unlock their future value? How do you give all that hard work a chance to actually grow? Well, that's exactly the puzzle we're going to piece together today. All right, first up, from work to a share, the conversion. And this is the first big step. The solution begins right here with this one key moment. See, this isn't something that just happens automatically. It's a choice, your choice, to take your work and turn it into a real stake in a project's future. And you know what? The journey is actually super straightforward. Look, it starts with your work, already validated in your time bank. That's step one. Step two, you decide, yep, I want to do this, and you choose to convert your hours. And then, boom, step three, you get Supa Shares right in your holdings. It's really that simple, a clear three-step process. Okay, next section. What is a Supa Share? Let's call it your potential ticket. And that's a great way to think about it. Imagine you have a ticket to a big game. It doesn't guarantee your team will win, but it gets you in the stadium, right? It gives you a seat. A Supa Share is kind of like that. It's your ticket, your claim on a project's potential success. So let's get a little more specific. A Supa Share is a virtual token. It lives inside the Supa system, and what it does is give you a real right, to a share of a project's potential future earnings and success. And I'm going to say that word a lot today, potential. It's absolutely key. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because a Supa Share isn't just some vague IOU. It gives you very specific things. First, you get a piece of what's called a Supa Share class, basically a pool of tokens. Second, that gives you a right to a percentage of the project's actual earnings. And third, and this one is huge, it gives you an option to convert it into a permanent blockchain token. We'll get into what that means in a bit, but it's a game changer. Okay, new section. The clock is ticking, the validation period. And this is a really, really important part. That potential ticket we talked about, it doesn't last forever. There's a ticking clock attached to it. Now, that sounds like a risk, and it is. But stick with me, because that risk is actually a super clever and super important feature of how this whole thing works. So here's the life cycle of your Supa Share. The clock starts the moment you convert your hours. That's the conversion date. Then you have the validation period. This could be 6 months, it could be a few years, and that's the window of opportunity for the project to, create some real value. But if it doesn't, you hit the expiration date and the Supa Share expires. Simple as that. So let's talk about the two possible futures, win or expire. This really brings us to a fork in the road. Every Supa Share you hold has one of two destinies. It either succeeds or it expires. And it's really important to get your head around both of these possibilities. All right, let's break down these two paths side by side. Path one is value realized. This is the win. The project makes money and you get a piece of it. Maybe the project even gets tokenized, which lets you upgrade your virtual token into a real asset. Awesome. But then there's path two. Opportunity lost. Here, no earnings come in during that validation period, the project doesn't get tokenized, and your virtual token, well, it expires and becomes worthless. You have to be aware of both. Okay, let's talk about the best case scenario, the blockchain upgrade, the golden ticket. Because honestly, this is where things get really, really exciting. If that project you backed gets tokenized, your Supa Share basically turns into a golden ticket. This is the moment all that potential we talked about can be truly unlocked. So what does getting tokenized even mean? Think of it like the project going pro. It becomes a permanent asset on the blockchain. And if this happens while your Supa Share is still active, you get to convert it at a really favorable fixed price. And what you get is a permanent blockchain token that never expires. And that unlocks a whole new level of possibilities, like trading it or even using it as collateral. All right, final section, the smart tax benefit, why risk is a feature. Now, I know we've talked a lot about the risk of your token expiring, and it probably sounds like a bad thing. But what if I told you that risk is actually one of the most brilliant parts of this whole system? Let's peel back the curtain on this one. And I'm sure you're thinking, okay, hold on. Why does this token have to expire? Why does it risk becoming worthless? If it's a reward for my work, shouldn't it just be a permanent thing right from the start? It's a fair question. And here's the answer. It's the absolute key to everything. You are not taxed until actual value is generated. Just let that sink in for a second. See, because your super share could become worthless, it's considered to have no immediate taxable value when you get it. This is huge. It means you only get taxed if and when you see real gains, like when the project pays out earnings or when you convert it into that valuable blockchain token. You're not paying taxes on potential, you're only paying taxes on actual realized value. That risk we talked about, it's the very feature that protects you. So there you have it. The choice is really yours. You can keep your hours safe and sound in your time bank, or you can convert them into a Supa Share. It's a calculated risk for sure, but it's one with a really smart design behind it. So the final question is, are you ready to give your hard work a chance to grow into something much, much bigger?